I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business is to approve minutes from previous meetings, starting with the work session on April 28, 2014.
I move to approve those minutes.
Second.
It's been moved by Mike and seconded by Bill. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Those minutes are approved. Moving on to the Select Board meeting of April 28, 2014.
I shall not.
I move to approve those minutes.
I will second that.
Okay, it's been moved by Mike, seconded
Madam
by
Chair?
Armand. Yes.
I don't know if it's the appropriate time, but I'd like to make a correction to the minutes.
Okay.
And unfortunately, it's not a correction to the minutes, but what I said, during the meeting. And under committee reports, it says Mr. Bolton announced the next Conservation Commission meeting is scheduled for May 15th. That's indeed what I said, but the actual date is the 13th.
Okay, so the minutes can stand as is
With an addendum.
with an
Or correction.
addendum with the correction. Okay, with that correction having been made, all those in favor? Aye. Those minutes are approved. Next, we have the non-public meeting of April 28, 2014.
I move that those be approved as written.
Second.
It's been moved by Bill, seconded by Mike. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Those minutes are approved. Announcements. The Select Board will meet on the following dates. Regular meetings at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, May 27, 2014, and June 9, 2014. Work review sessions prior to the regular meetings will start at 5 p.m. An informational meeting with Plymouth State University and the Plymouth Planning Board regarding the All Well Center will take place at 5 p.m. on Monday, June 2, 2014. And is that meeting here, Paul?
I don't think so.
No.
I just put it in my calendar.
Which one are you talking about?
The All Well Center meeting with the university and the planning board?
I believe it's here.
Okay.
With
It's
the two boards.
with the two boards, unless,
No, it is here.
okay. So that meeting will take place here. Town offices will be closed on Monday, May 26, 2014, in observance of Memorial Day, and the Plymouth Memorial Day Parade will be held at 10:30 a.m. with a ceremony in front of the town hall afterwards, and lineup for the parade will begin at 10 a.m. at the Armory. All of the above meetings will be held in the town hall unless otherwise posted. Weather observations for the month of April are available in the town hall, and citizens wishing to be listed on the Select Board's agenda should notify the Town Hall before 12 p.m. on the Friday before the scheduled meeting. Okay, first on our agenda, we have an update from Donna Quinn, regional update. Donna?
Thank you. Is there anywhere special you'd like to have me?
If you could come up to the podium, please.
All right, well, I want to thank you for putting me on the agenda. And it's been a while since we've had a chance to do one of these updates, so I thought it was a good time to come back and sort of have an opportunity to share what's been going on within the public health network. So as you may know, that we originally had started with just 12 communities within our public health network, and that was about 4 or 5 years back, and then a short time after that, a few more communities were added. Those were Lincoln and Woodstock. And then recently this year, as of July 1, several of the newfound communities were added to that public health network. So those additional communities were Alexandria, Bristol, Bridgewater, Hebron, and Groton. See, and the last time I did one of these with you guys, I don't think I needed glasses, but in order to properly see everything here, I'm going to need these tonight. So now we're up to about 18 communities, which is just under 30,000 residents, give or take. I mean, all of the vast majority of the communities we have summer residents, and so they're not necessarily populations that are there full-time, but more or less it's about 30,000. So that change has made us need to review some of the things that are in our public health plan, because originally they were planned for somewhere closer to 22,000 people, or give or take, or just under 25. So one of the changes that we had to consider was an update to our point of dispensing plans, our pod plans, where we would offer mass vaccinations if we needed to, and we use those plans during H1N1 to vaccinate folks there as well. So those had to be updated as well. And one of the changes that we made was that we had 2 pod locations. One was in Lincoln at the Linwood Junior Senior High School, and that's a very small setup. So it's designed just for pretty much the Lincoln Woodstock population, knowing that they may sort of be cut off from the rest of us. So that is about 2,700 for up in that area. And then we have the pod here on campus at PSU at the field house, which was just about 19,000, just around that number. But with the changes, we realized that we were going to need to make some changes to that PSU pod, and also any concerns we might have for the improvements that they have going forward with the Allwell Center, and if there was a need to ever take it offline. So when we inherited sort of these other communities, so to speak, we looked at what they had for pod sites, and they had the Newfound Regional High School as a pod site. It was designed for just about 10,000 people, so it wasn't that big initially in its plan, but we reworked it this past year over the last few months, and it now can hold the same as what PSU can hold, so we've set them up to be just about 2,200, more or less, 22,000, sorry, more or less. So they can both do the same thing, which was a huge shift for Newfound, because Newfound wasn't doubled their numbers. So they needed an entirely new floor plan and whatnot. And probably sometime over the summer, we'll look at exercising that part of the plan, the Newfound pod plan, because it's not been done before. Well, it's not been done with the new floor plan. It's been done some years ago, but in a much smaller version. So we're going to update that. We also had an opportunity to do 2 Tdap clinics this past year, one in August and one in September. And those were free to anyone who wished to come. The vaccine was provided by the immunization department through this state. And we held one of those at the particular site in Lincoln to test that pod site there as well. So that was a nice way to test that and offer a vaccine as well. And we also did test our big PSU pod location back in October, because we offered free seasonal flu vaccine for all staff, students, and faculty. The goal was to try to do 500 in 3 hours. We had just about 300 people sign up, so 300 people came through in that 3-hour time, and it really gave us a lot of information about the size of the pod, how fast each station could vaccinate. And one of the things that was very unique to that plan, or to that particular exercise, was that we used the nursing students from campus, who just don't have as many opportunities to vaccinate folks. So it's a great learning experience for them. They have a preceptor with them, and they work through the paperwork and the process. And then we also use some seasoned nurses that we have worked with for years, and we looked at the differences in timing, because we knew there would be a significant difference, but that allowed us to build a plan that said, if you're using seasoned staff, you're probably going to move them through at this pace. And if you're not, you're likely to go at this pace, so that we can have some sort of numbers to play with. And it was the first time that we really had numbers per station to be able to go back and say, that's an average. Which, by the way, the average for a seasoned person is just from paperwork to vaccination and back on the other side is about 2 minutes, 40 seconds, give or take. So that was a huge opportunity, and we're so grateful for the campus for helping us set that up, and for the nursing department. They played a huge role in that. And we're looking forward to doing other things with them as time comes up. So they will also be helping. We're having an acute care site exercise on May 28th, and they're going to be a part of that as well. And the acute care site is really just, if the hospital were to reach surge, and not just this hospital, but all the hospitals within the region, and they found a need to start moving some low acuity patients out to another secondary location, that would be what the ACS would be used for. And the ACS is actually on campus yet again at Pemming Hall, because it needs to be in pretty close proximity to the hospital, and that definitely is. So we're going to have an opportunity to exercise that, and I'll send out the documentation for that, because anyone's welcome to attend that if they're interested in seeing how that comes together. One of the reasons for testing it is that the state has now asked us to include a low flow oxygen component. So that's sort of different for us, and we need to work through that a little bit. So we have some plans for it, but we need to see how well they work. And we've been fortunate to work with some local vendors, Lincare, who's helping us out with that as well. And we've also done some school flu clinics, seasonal flu vaccine we've offered for the past few years. It's free to the students and their families. The vaccine is provided free through the state, as you know. And we went into the schools, any school that was interested, and offered it there. Typically, we have a really low rate among high school students. It is not because they don't choose to be vaccinated, at least we don't believe that's the case. Having high school students myself, I can vouch for this, it's because they won't bring back their paperwork. And if they bring it to you, they don't bring it back on the other side, or vice versa. So we worked through a process with the school nurse, Linda Parker, at the high school. She did a fantastic job, and we sort of, offered an incentive, if you will. It was right around the time of, was it homecoming, Peggy?
Yes,
Yeah, homecoming. And so for homecoming, any student that brought back a form, whether it was yes or no, would get a point for that class, because, they collect points, and the winning class gets, I don't know what they get, but they like it, so they get something. So usually the average vaccination for a high school of any given size is under 20 students. And that's a high school of around 300 or so, might get 20 students. This year, the first time being back in years at the high school here in Plymouth, we vaccinated 100 students. That was our goal. We said 100. We did 100 on the dot. And she did a phenomenal job, and she already is working through ways to make it better next year. So I think that will really be successful. And in total, we vaccinated just under 600 students throughout the region for the seasonal flu vaccine. And there is, as I said, no cost. And we're going to continue to work on our public health plan, updating it, reflecting those new communities and things like that. That will be done by the end of June. Are there things that you have questions about, or that you are interested in knowing more about? Or
Any questions for Donna on the board? I think that was a very, very thorough and complete. It sounds like
there's certainly more things, but you're certainly welcome to attend anything that we have, any exercises, any events that we have. It would be great to have you there. And, I think it's really starting to come together, especially we've done, like I said, a huge amount of exercises this past year, which was really unprecedented for us. So now we're just really looking at, now that we have that data from those exercises, what do we do to make things better so that the plans are better, stronger, and more efficient. So, and it's been great to work with all of the partners, campus, the fire and police department, and things of that nature. Everybody's really come together throughout all the communities to help support this. So when the plan is revised this coming year, we'll get out copies to everybody, because it will be quite different than it has been in the past few years, just due to the nature of those new communities.
Right. Well,
And it's still kind of big, so we'll put it on a flash drive to conserve paper.
very good. Well, thank you very much, Donna, for
You're
your time
welcome.
and the update, and congratulations on your expansion, I guess.
Well, thank you for your time, and please, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to give me a call.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Moving along, under personnel, our highway department manager actually came before the board during our work session and briefed us on a new hire that he has recommended. That individual is Robert Wilcox, and we have his personnel action form before us. I would ask the board at this time for I'd ask Roger to come forward and be introduced.
I would like to introduce Bob Wilcox, Paul Freitas, Town Administrator, Armand.
Bill.
Bill, Valerie, Mike, and Neil. This is Bob Wilcox. He has a lot of qualifications that the Highway Department could benefit from. He's anxious to come on board.
We certainly heard what you said earlier and are pretty much in consensus on it, so now we can make it official. If I could have a motion that we hire Robert Wilcox for the Highway Department.
I move that we hire Bob Wilcox for the Highway Department.
I second that.
It's been moved by Neil, seconded by Armand. Any discussion or questions for Mr.?
He said thank you, I submit for the vote.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Congratulations. Please come forward. Congratulations. Welcome to Plymouth.
Welcome. Thanks.
Okay, and continuing on, next on the agenda, we have a new purchase order from Steve Lefebvre, Ford Motor Credit Department. This is the third payment of 3 on a 2013 Ford Interceptor. And we've had a discussion. This was previously approved at town meeting. We just finished a discussion about the next 3 payments on new Ford Interceptors, so the police department is being kept well equipped. But this is for a 2013 Ford Interceptor in the amount of $35,789.46. As I said, this is the third payment of 3. Is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
It's been moved by Mike, seconded by Bill. Any questions or discussions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That is approved. Okay. Next, we have committee reports. Armand?
On Friday, I attended the Plymouth Regional Chamber of Commerce monthly meeting, and several things we spoke about. The Chamber is decided to create a marketing committee. We talked in depth about that to try to further the visibility of the members of the chamber and try to expand the chamber to some other gain some new businesses. That's in the works. A website redesign is always a common thing. Talk a little about some events coming up. Taste of Newfound is a big one. Good opportunity for marketing there. Spoke about the New Hampshire Music Festival. We've all heard of the New Hampshire Music Festival that's coming up on June 21st, I believe. Does that sound right?
We have
A little bit of discussion on the Leadership Academy, which was a wonderful event. We also talked about some budgeting and some growth on the financial end of things, which is always a common discussion when it comes to those. And that's about it. It was well received. Oh, we talked a little bit about Spring Fling, of how the town, maybe how some of the members of the chamber viewed how Spring Fling happened. It was a very positive discussion. No real complaints, which was very nice to hear that. So that's it.
Bill?
The Conservation Commission is meeting on the 13th, and the Planning Board is going to be considering the Allwell, at least seeing a presentation on the Allwell building on June 2nd. Since the last meeting, we haven't had one.
Okay. Mike?
Well, I attended the Plymouth Energy Commission meeting, I guess, just about a week ago, which was sort of interesting because Steve Whitman had a class put together a report about the possibility of putting a solar array somewhere in the town, and they had gone and looked at some sites and figured out how much it would take and how much electricity the town consumed. And this is all in relation to a means by which one can put up a solar array and then have the energy that it generates credited against one or more bills. And so that was interesting. They've actually given us a draft report, and they're gonna give us a final report, and we may be able to use that as a way to look further into that. And then I guess the other thing that happened at the Plymouth Energy Commission is, I think that sometime this year, we're going to replace the streetlights primarily on Highland Street that aren't done from about, I guess, the end of the university down to Burger King with LEDs. And that probably sometime in the next several months, that'll be done. And that'll be phase 2 of that project. And then I went to the last meeting of Plymouth Elementary School Board too, and that was pretty much uneventful. They discussed in some detail what the kids had been doing, some of the projects and some of the activities that the kids had been engaged in. It was interesting what they were doing, but there weren't any issues to speak of. So that's all I have.
The planning board hasn't met. The next meeting's this Thursday, the 15th, and the ambulance committee hasn't met. I'd just like to mention that I spent quite a few hours observing Spring Fling, and I want to just say that I think our police department did an excellent job.
Good. Thank you. All right, and I attended a meeting of Plymouth Village Water and Sewer District. Two things that were of significance to us are that they are including, they were acknowledging the fact that both the town highway department and planning board would probably need to have some involvement, or at least awareness of any plan that they come up with on their the master plan that they're working on. So they know that if they're going to be working on infrastructure under the roads, that highway needs to be brought into that, so they know that they don't resurface roads just before the infrastructure under the road gets redone. They also had received a report on, I believe it was sodium chloride mitigation. It was something that they're supposed to be doing about salt in the water system. And the report included about 30 recommendations, and a good half of those involved either the planning board or the highway department and things that they would have to do. So they were going to bring that to the town as well to try and coordinate those efforts. And that was really all I had.
Can I add something?
Yes.
I neglected to mention that the fire department did an excellent job too on Spring Fling.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, and moving on to new and other business, we have Northern Pass discussion. And both Bill Bolton and I attended a meeting that took place at the library. I think a lot of members of the community were there 2 Sundays ago, where we had a presentation basically from the a couple of law firms and a representative of the Appalachian Mountain Club who briefed us on the site evaluation committee, what it does, and you know what are some ideas on the kind of involvement towns can have. And essentially, Northern Pass at this point is still waiting to hear from the Department of Energy about the presidential permit that would enable them to cross the international border, come down through from Canada into New Hampshire. But they believe that very shortly after that takes place, that they'll be filing their application with the Site Evaluation Committee for New Hampshire to consider it. And based on the town's vote on the warrant article that essentially was in opposition to Northern Pass a couple of years back, the town of Plymouth will be filing as an intervener, and there's been some discussion about meeting with other towns and getting together with other towns to not everybody fight the same battle, but rather have it be a collective that works on the fight, with the understanding, too, that there are many other organizations that are also involved, to include the Appalachian Mountain Club and the Society for Protection of New Hampshire Forests. And did you have anything else to add to that?
No.
No? Okay.
Well, it just seemed like it's going to be a hard battle to at least prepare yourselves for the fact that it's going to be a judicial process, and, you know, you have to be well defended and know the subject when you go before the hearing, so.
Yeah, and the other thing I just wanted to add is that Paul Freitas and some other town administrators in our area actually got together and had a meeting last week to sort of start brainstorming, towns getting together on this, and at this point, I think we really can't do much until they file with the site evaluation committee, but I think that we're certainly starting to think about it and formulate some ideas, so. Anything to add to that, Paul?
No, it'll be the combination of the economy of scales. How do we afford going forward if it goes into court and we have to afford attorneys and resources that different towns can bring to the table. Some towns have citizen groups that are representing them, some towns don't. So that we can combine all that together. Bill's correct. It could be a costly fight this time around. So that if we can share some of that cost with everybody, so that per capita, everybody comes out about the same with representation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we'll be fine.
Okay, moving on to the North Country Regional Plan Survey that we received, and this was the thing that we had in our inboxes last week. North Country Council asking us for some feedback on a number of issues. I think that starting with the 3 existing or emerging needs that can be best addressed by more than one community working together. And I had made some notes on that I need to. Anybody have any, I mean, obviously the first one we just talked about, Northern Pass, would be one that if that's going to, when that becomes an issue, I think more than one community can certainly work on it. But any other ideas?
I guess that whole river project that we were talking about a month or so ago, if that comes to fruition, that involves more than one town.
Friends of the Pemmy.
Friends of the Pemmy, yeah.
The Livermore Falls project,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Paul, can you think of anything?
No. Arnold just brought up the most important one on the table right now, outside of Northern Pass. Livermore Falls project, you can put down anything else that you think that you want to have help with the rotary from down at the amphitheater. Well, I don't know, I know Mr. Piper has given us the old river gauge that used to be on the old bridge, and we'd like to see that installed somewhere down in the amphitheater area. We'll actually be able to use that during storms. I mean, 1 foot here is 1 foot here. It doesn't matter where you place that. We could place that a little bit closer so that we're not dealing with the DES and the shoreline. And it gives us an opportunity to go down there and notify the police department. It's at 2 feet at that particular point, and we know what we have to do. When something happens at 2 feet down at the amphitheater, that's when we start to see flooding down at Forster Street and stuff like that. So that could be a project that we might want to try to get done.
Okay, any other thoughts? Neil? Anyone else? Mr. Miller?
Yes, I think one thing we should look at to that is our Multiuse Trail, which is terminated right about the senior center, and trying to get Plymouth through to Bridgewater is the last point at which the multi-use trail has been constructed. So there's this bottleneck in Plymouth of getting it past the water and sewer, across the railroad tracks, down Route 3. And there's been in the last 10, 15, 20 years, multiple different plans evolved about doing something with the railroad bed or doing something with Route 3. I know the 10-year transportation plan from 10 years ago was talking about the state having to reconstruct Route 3 to get a bicycle trail and or a walking path on Route 3 from the end of town, downtown, to the lower interval, where then you have that capability of affecting a sidewalk or a bike path. But we have this bottleneck right at the south end of town, and there's been multiple committees of different thoughts. There was one on the water and sewer connection to Ashland, and that was going to go down a railroad bed. And nothing's really ever come together on it. And we just keep talking about it, planning, and I've been to enough different committee meetings on various thoughts of what we should do down there, and thinking, well, maybe we ought to reevaluate obviously the various thoughts of programs that were envisioned there, and or see how what the there's technical issues, and then there are issues with the railroad and EPA.
Thank you, Frank. I think that we get the picture, though.
Okay. Anyway,
Yeah.
that might be
Yeah.
listed.
You don't have to sell it right now. Yes, Paul?
And that's actually not this project, Frank.
This what?
You're thinking of the project that DOT has, that
Okay.
we're in the queue for, and that's not this
It
one.
wouldn't be a Northern Path, I mean,
Okay.
a North Country Council project.
It's DOT.
Okay. Okay. Well, I guess we can come up with two. Okay. Not counting equipment, in what three categories do you anticipate your community's largest capital needs to be in the next 10 years? And several of these kind of jumped out at me, including the road reconstruction, paving, drainage improvements.
I had one that was really big,
Mm.
was the facilities, public safety.
Yeah, public safety.
That was
Facilities,
the other
more,
one that-
to be general.
Is that the red phone?
Oh.
Holy crap. Something.
Yeah, I think that absolutely public safety buildings.
Can you categorize buildings and perhaps include highways as well, if need be? You know, I mean,
We can have as many as we want here, I think.
Yeah.
well,
I mean,
yeah.
this is talking about three categories in the community's next 10 years. So I think that that's, it's obviously the public safety buildings has been something that's been, we've done a kind of a Band-Aid on it now.
I think that would be at the top of my list.
Yeah, I would agree. But also, the highway department may have to move, or theoretically, if they
Right.
need to move, that would be on top list too. Teddy Mountain Highway build-out.
Water and sewer systems.
But that's not us. That's
No.
Plymouth Village Water and Sewer District.
Those are the major ones, I think. Really.
Reconstruction.
Yeah, roads, the public safety building, and possibly the highway building. That hasn't really become a big issue yet, but I guess it could.
When I said facilities, I sort of encompassed,
Oh, okay.
I meant to anyway, the highway department, the fire station,
Oh,
the
yeah.
police department. It was
Yeah.
sort of a general facility statement,
Even
just to be
the
clear.
transfer station is in,
True.
Needs work, yeah.
If you've toured them recently, I think you can sort of understand what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
Okay. A survey conducted for North Country Council by the UNH Survey Center indicated that 73%, oh, this is pretty, of North Country residents felt future development should occur in areas that are already developed, such as villages and downtowns. Public input and demographic data also indicate a growing need for more housing options, for example, more small homes closer to jobs and services. Does your community currently have a downtown or village area where homes and businesses and services occur together on smaller lots than the rest of the community?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would certainly give that one a yes. Although that, I mean, it is the downtown, it's the village there, we call it the village. Would you like to see more growth in your community's village or downtown? And, you know, the next question sort of ties to that because, you know, the first thought is there's no space for growth in our village. But then when it talks about are there physical barriers and it says no unused or underutilized buildings suitable for rehabilitation. And we really kind of do have some unused.
If I can say.
Yes.
I would say yes to answer 4B in terms of would we like to see more growth in the community's village or downtown. I don't know that we'd ever want to answer no to that question.
Right.
Right. Well, but there are, I mean, there are people who argue that, you know, there's no space for expansion of business in the downtown. You can't go north or south on Main Street, but we certainly have got
There's some vacancy available currently.
lots of
and
vacancies
it's-
available.
Over the
That's-
last 6 months, it's increased.
Yeah.
I think that would go hand in hand with, yes, with growth and filling our existing buildings.
Can I say something?
Well, none of those really apply. The
Yeah.
C's are all negatives.
I think we have changing demographics.
Mhm.
You know, we have a changing business climate. And we have to address the changes. You know, I'm not saying that downtown has no future. It's just not gonna be the same as it was.
Mhm.
It's gonna change.
How do you see the change?
Well, it seems that we have a really constricted area. We're limited on space, and parking has always been an issue. We have a real problem with parking. We're in between the river and the college. The university has expanded substantially, and there really is a space limitation downtown. So we have to think in terms of how we're going to develop downtown.
Okay.
We are looking at actually Green Street to kind
Yeah.
of like clarify and make that kind of a usable space. There is a piece of property across from the Monkey too that's actually, town owns it.
Town owns it.
It's just sitting there waiting for someone to develop it.
That's true. For the town to sell it to someone who will develop.
True.
For a reasonable price.
Yeah, very reasonable.
Okay, and then it goes on to, please tell us how high priority each of these items should be for North Country Council. Energy production, for example, planning for wind, biomass, hydro, and solar. I don't,
Getting back to, part of the scope of the project that's going to be at the regional high school. There's a district move to like build out at least a biomass or, a chip burning plant for energy. So that would at least throw something into the mix of where we might prioritize that. So maybe moderate priority?
I'm thinking it's more moderate than high.
I see energy as a very high priority.
I do as well.
Production or efficiency?
Both.
You really think?
Yeah.
more so
I think
in the
people
next
should be
10-plus
encouraged
years.
to have solar panels, and we need to lighten up on the grid.
I think there was like buzzwords that they put in there that was kind of like anathema, though, planning for wind, I don't think so, or hydro, and so the examples they put in kind of like put you off.
Yeah, the issue with wind, of course, is what we've seen around here, which is that it has not been very well received. At least not the large installations. So if it were me and I was gonna say high priority, I would say solar, maybe biomass is a high priority, but I'd be disinclined to, encourage them to promote wind power.
Well, and are they talking about really promoting, or are they they say they're understanding local needs as they set priorities for staffing and work plans and explore grant sources, and also to help shape their regional plan? So, I mean, I think what they're really looking at is for us to give them a feel for what we think they should be focusing on. So we've got, I don't think every one of us has to give exactly the same answers to all of these, but I think that at least we should have somewhat of a consensus. I think we're in agreement that that's somewhere in high to moderate priority, just the way they've worded it.
I think energy efficiency, in my opinion, should be a high priority. It doesn't matter who or where it is. That's across the board, whether it's a single-family home or a municipality,
Yes.
because that's dollars in terms of efficiency. I think that should be high. That's my opinion on that.
I certainly agree with that one.
Well, on A, if we're just gonna check a box, I guess it's gotta be moderate.
Moderate.
That would be my take on it.
It's also my opinion on that.
And I might just say, except wind over there under should not work on this. I would put wind in the should not work on this column.
Yeah.
I think that's what I would do. Although I don't think that's exactly what they expected to see.
That's okay.
Whatever, they put out this questionnaire, they get the answers.
That's right, they're gonna get the answers. Access to transportation, I think that's pretty high.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's pretty high.
Growing need.
It is a growing need, and it's gonna
Yeah.
get bigger as the population ages. Safe and affordable housing choices.
This sort of relates back to what they had, what did they say here? Oh, the change in demographics
Yeah.
and, and that's something that we've heard from PSU and from others, that
Yeah.
there's not really good housing
Well, and
for the empty nesters and the,
it was very interesting to hear. I was in a panel last week that included and it was the Leadership Academy and for the chamber and is putting on, and I was a panelist. There was a newfound regional school board member there, and there was a woman who was a part of the trust. She was a trustee for the university system of New Hampshire, and it was incredible how housing, safe and affordable housing, relates to school budgeting and school populations and everything else. If people can't find decent places to live with their kids, they're not going to live in the school district, and it's going to the impact is huge. So I think that's important.
Sounds good to me.
so that's a high.
Attract new businesses that pay livable wages. That's a no-brainer.
That's a no-brainer. Is there an
They're gonna have
ultra
their
high?
work cut out for them, it
Christmas
looks like.
list.
Yeah. Improved high-speed internet.
It would be high if you were underserved.
Right, I mean, I
Right, yeah,
think
we
that's
don't-
very, for the towns that are north of us, that's probably a huge priority. I don't think it's one, I mean, we're,
Doesn't really affect us too much because we have it.
right. Protect water quality.
I vote for that.
I say high as
As
well.
well.
Long-range planning for school districts. I don't, I don't know how
Vague,
much North
something
Country
similar.
Well, we're
Council.
not exploding.
Yeah,
Well, you want to plan for shrinking, too.
That's true. The planning doesn't mean, either up or down. It could be either is the planning process.
yeah.
And
I don't think that's a big priority for us, because I think we're pretty, I know we go up and down, but we're pretty stable, and our schools are really good, and people come here to go to them, so
I think you're right.
I would say that's a low priority for
As
us.
the chair pointed out, it may not be kind of like a concern of North Country Council as well.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Sharing of municipal services and purchases. I think we accomplished that. I think that our town administrator and the local administrators put their heads together, and we certainly share services with the university, and so
I would say that's a low priority
Yeah,
for
I would
us.
agree.
regional recreation sources such as trail systems.
I would have to say hi.
Well, that was one
The
that,
Conservation Commission, so I
It'd
shall
be a
say hi.
bonus for
You're
us.
biased. Is that what you're saying?
child care and early childhood education. I don't see where North Country Council,
How could they impact? I don't know how they could impact that.
I don't know. I had,
We
I
think,
think it needs moderate.
well, it's important, but I think what we're saying is it's not really the kind of thing we see
want
them as
them to
doing.
do.
Unless, in their planning, just a healthy community would include, childcare facilities and per whatever population, so maybe it is part of the concern,
I
but.
think having the university is helpful.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Here.
Well, I may have aged out of being concerned enough about that, I'm not sure. What did we decide there? That it's low?
Low to moderate, I guess.
Yeah.
We have to pick one or the other, Bill.
No,
We
we
put
don't
it
have to
in
all be exactly the same. I
We
think
do?
No, they're gonna be looking for
Okay.
trends and answers.
You can't see my paper.
We have to be on the same page, but not necessarily exactly at the
Identical,
same
okay.
point in the sentence. Local foods and agricultural land.
I would say hi.
I would also say hi.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, go along with that.
You can do whatever you want, Mike, though.
I think we need to have our own
Sorry.
food.
I agree.
Right.
Self-sustainability.
Emergency preparedness, hazard mitigation, and resiliency. I would give that a moderate.
Ooh, but they're not, I shouldn't say, but being a cash cow, but, like emergency management, and emergency planning is a very high priority for towns that enjoy
Yeah.
budget.
Although we have not benefited significantly from grant money that North Country Council has
Oh.
gotten. They always say, Plymouth, you're doing too well, so you're kind of out of the loop on this.
Yes,
So-
again, that's another, category where maybe they shouldn't be concerning
Like
themselves
a
with.
not applicable type thing. Or,
Yeah,
Moderate.
well, you're generous.
Wow. It seems that we have enough civic participation.
Yeah. Fostering civic participation and engaging youth.
See, I don't see that as a North Country Council responsibility
I don't
or
either.
function.
Why don't you put that as low?
So I put
I-
low.
I've actually put should not work on
That's
it.
what I put as well.
Yeah, I forgot that category.
Solid waste planning. I know, we've
Pretty
got
good.
that
Mhm.
completely
Under control.
under
Low
control.
priority.
Training.
Training and guidance for planning boards.
That's their business.
It
That's
is
their business. Yeah,
I think that's extremely important.
yeah.
Yeah,
I would put high on that.
and it's, It's especially high, I think, for communities that don't have a professional planner, too. I mean, we've got the luxury of having a professional who knows,
Very true.
who's got the experience and can help the board out, but many communities don't have that. Okay. The New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services reported that nearly 46% of the third grade boys in Coos County were reported as overweight or obese. This is just one data point in a growing area of concern for planners. Decisions made about land use, transportation, and natural resources can all have impacts, positive or negative, on the health of residents. Poor health has economic costs, not only medical costs, but also graduation rates and lost productivity, absenteeism, and disability. Planners nationwide are becoming more engaged in health issues. Would you support North Country councils becoming more involved with other organizations to work toward a region-wide strategy to improve the health of North Country residents?
I would think that just to maintain the focus on, planning and helping out communities versus involving health-associated decision-making process, but.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's a little bit too far out of their sphere of influence, and
Yeah.
I don't, it just seems like they'd be spreading themselves way too thin to be getting involved in that as well. I'm not sure, but that'd just be my thought.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, the decisions about land use, transportation, and natural resources, if they educate planners on the impact that those have in other areas, that's fine, but yeah, I'd say no. What comes to mind when you first hear the word community?
Primary relationships.
I have something I just sort of wrote
Is
up
that
just
fair?
now. To me, it's interaction between the local government, local businesses, business owners, our university, and the townspeople.
Yeah, and I put that into
for-
one word. I said partnerships.
There you go.
Partnerships.
Sorry, I'm a little
There you
verbose,
go.
I apologize,
Yeah.
but also added for the progression of our area, of our community area.
I just think it's great that we can know each other, and not be like New York City,
Mhm. Oh, it is. Okay.
All right.
And then please check off the age category.
Do we do an average or? No. It's kind of surprising that 41's the median age for a state.
41 is, that is, you
Median, yeah.
think would be higher?
I thought we're definitely heading higher, I guess, but. Aging our state.
Is the median the number for which half are above and half are below?
Yes.
Yeah.
I always forget.
Okay.
Mean, median.
Yeah, right.
So these, I guess we can consolidate and just put in one envelope to send back to
Sure.
these guys instead of having them get 5 separate
to sign it,
packages.
we're anonymous, right?
We're anonymous. All we
Yeah,
have to
I
do is
messed mine
indicate
up
that
too
we're
much.
Bill's
from-
name on mine.
I have to do it over. I made a mess.
Okay, you can get it to Kate tomorrow.
Close enough.
All right. No unfinished business. Is there any public comment this evening? Yes.
Hi, Alex Herbst from Plymouth State Student Government. I just have really 2 announcements, I would say. One is from our meteorology department. As some of you know, I am one of the on-air broadcasters for the PM weather program that is aired on public access. And we'll be having a special edition of PM weather this Thursday at 7 o'clock, which will air on public access. And that will be based around the graduation ceremonies for Plymouth State University for this year. As we know, the forecast is looking a little shaky for this weekend, as if there may be some rain in the area coming later this week. We'll be giving all the updates on Thursday as to the weather for this weekend. And then the other announcement is, well, he's in the room, he doesn't know that I'm doing this, but I wanted to say thank you to Tim Keefe for being Dean of Students at Plymouth State for my entire time there and for a time much longer than that, as he is retiring at the end of this school year, and I know I speak on behalf of all the students there and say that we will dearly miss you, and we know that you will not be leaving us entirely and that you will still be around. So thank you.
Thank you.
Final decision being made 6 o'clock Saturday morning,
6:30.
6:30.
6:30 a.m. they'll decide where the graduation ceremony will be held, whether it will be outside on the field or inside in separate locations. And you can hear that all on WPCR in the morning, Saturday morning. Tim Keefe will be hosting.
Yeah.
Will Mr. Keefe be broadcasting that day as well, or?
He'll be broadcasting on Saturday morning from the radio station.
Live on 91.7 WPCR, the Waves of Rock at Plymouth State University.
I'm waiting for that.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Al.
Thank you.
Well, and I'd just like to add congratulations to Tim on his retirement, and to let you know that your name has already come up as, oh, Tim's retiring, we could get him to work on this, or we could get him to work on that. So you're not off the hook with the town at all. And you're always welcome at our meetings, so.
Do a little business. I appreciate those accolades, and thank you. And thankfully, I will be doing some teaching here in the fall, so we're looking forward to that.
Great.
But I did want to extend some thank yous also for Spring Fling to certainly both Plymouth Police and Fire, the University Police, but also Holderness Police and Fire, State Police, Sheriff's Department, many, many other agencies. But I really want to also thank the students and the student leadership for the unbelievable work they did to make this a successful weekend. And the last thank you really goes to the entire community, because I know that no matter how wonderful we think it was, it still creates a little chaos and noise and road closures and different things. But this whole community really supports the students having this weekend as an opportunity to have a little fun after a long winter. And I happen to see a lot of community members taking advantage of the battle bands and a few other things, so that was great to see too. But thank you goes out to really the entire community and almost region for helping make this a possibility. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Tim.
Tim.
All right. And with that, I would ask for a motion to go into a non-public session in accordance with RSA 91-8:3, 2C.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Bill, seconded by Mike. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're in non-public.